මම ලයිසියම් ජාත්‍යන්තර පාසලේ සෙනාදි දම්යාද අල්විස්. මම කලා විෂය ධාරාවෙන් තමයි මේ උසස් පෙළ හැදෑරුවේ. කතිකාචාර්යවරියක් වීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා. ඉතින් මේ කළමනාකාර ශාස්ත්‍රයේ දැනුමක් ලබා ගන්න CMA පාඨමාලාව හදාරනවා.
ලෝහ පිළිගත් කළමනාකරණ ගණකාධිකාරීවරයෙකු වීමට පාර්ලිමේන්තු පන්තින් සංස්ථාපනය කරන ලද ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ එකම කළමනාකරණ ගණකාධිකාරී ආයතනය CMA ශ්‍රී ලංකා ඔබේ අනාගත ජයග්‍රහණයට
Ivan, today we are going to talk about the competency number 10 in your syllabus, contribution of logistics for the success of business. So when we are talking about logistics, we must talk about supply chain management, logistics, transportation, and also there are certain terms that we have to understand. So therefore I will also discuss those terminologies and different logistics functions and also warehousing. So supply chain management, because although in your syllabus you have logistics, transportation, warehousing, but still without talking about supply chain management, we cannot explain what is logistics. So that's why I thought of starting your lesson by defining what is supply chain management, because it has a huge relevance in your topic, logistics, and also you have transportation and warehousing. So we will carefully look at the link between these functions, but for that we have to start understanding what is supply chain management, right? So looking at this particular definition, it says that the supply chain is the network of organizations that are involved. So I will explain this particular definition part by part because it's a very long definition. Or else even before that, I think I should mention, now supply chain is a chain of supply. Even when you take your day-to-day activities, now for example, if you take your meal which you are getting on your plate, that is also a result of a supply chain in very simple terms, because now the meal that you enjoy, right, it can be your breakfast, lunch or dinner, whatever it is, the meal that you enjoy is also a result of a supply chain, because maybe your mother or whoever who is cooking, they have to go to the groceries or they have to go to the supermarket and they have to buy the vegetables and other ingredients and spices that they need, and they are like someone has to go there and bring them in your house, and then they have to be processed, right? You have to cut and chop, mix your spices. So that will make your meal, right? So then it will finally come onto your table. So that is also a result of a supply chain, because someone has to go to the market, buy them, bring in your home, because they will not come to your home by themselves. Someone has to go there and bring them inside your home, and maybe your mother or who is cooking, she has to cook the meal, and then it will come onto your table, right? So then that is also a result of a supply chain. I think with that very simple example, now you should be able to get an idea what is a supply chain. So it actually covers from its origin, right, from where you get your raw materials, and finally by using your raw materials, you are going to deliver it to the final customer. So in between these 2 points, the two extreme points of the supplier and the customer, there are many organizations who are involved in carrying out different activities, right? So we have to bring our raw materials. So suppliers are sending raw materials. Sometimes the suppliers are not sending the raw material directly to your organization. If you're the manufacturer, sometimes you have to work through intermediaries, right? So there may be some intermediaries of your suppliers. If you're not directly contacting your suppliers, you have to go through intermediaries, and then you are receiving your raw materials. Even after you have received your raw materials, now you have to process them in your factory, right? So you have to cut and chop them. You have to, there are different raw materials that you have to combine and make a final product. So therefore, in your organization also, these raw materials are actually processing. As a result of this processing stage or the transformation, the conversion process, you will get a final product, and this final product now should be delivered to the customer. So in that case, even again, you might not be delivering it directly to the customer. So there may be different parties who are involved. in between the customer and yourself, being you're the manufacturer, in between you and the customer, yes, there may be different parties who are involving in delivering this final product to the customer. So there may be wholesalers, retailers, distributors, dealers, all right. So when you take all these parties together, that can be called a supply chain, because starting from the supplier, so it goes till the end where the customers are to the market. So it goes through different organizations. So that is the chain of supply. So we have to very carefully understand this particular function in our organization, because every business organization will be successful when they have identified their supply chain properly and when they can manage it properly. So that particular idea is actually embedded in this particular definition. So the supply chain is the network of organization. Now you already know that it is a network of organization. It can be suppliers organization, it can be an intermediaries, agents of suppliers organization, and you being the manufacturer or the service provider in the middle of your supply chain. And there can be distributors and wholesalers, retailers, their organizations, and finally it goes to the customer. So therefore, that is a collection of organization or a network of organizations that are involved through upstream and downstream linkages. So upstream of your supply chain is actually when you start from you, you can be the manufacturer or if you also can be an organization which is providing a service. So in between this particular manufacturer or the service provider and the supplier, the activities that are carrying out usually are called upstream activities, because that is the upside, the back end of your supply chain, right? And the other part of your supply chain towards the customer side, we call that downstream activities. So therefore, this network of organizations are involving with these upstream and downstream linkages. The activities that we are carrying out in upstream and downstream of your supply chain in the different processes and activities. So we are carrying out so many processes and activities throughout our supply chain, okay, throughout our upstream activities and the downstream activities. And for what? To provide value in the form of product and services. So we want to provide a value. I think you may already know what is value. So we have to create value. Value is highly dealt with the customer's expectations. So we are carrying out all these processes and activities to provide a value to the final customer. What they are expecting from our product, we have to deliver that value, right? So therefore, the whole purpose of carrying out all these activities, processes is to provide a value to the final customer, and it is very clear that it is a result of your supply chain, right? So then therefore the supply chain management is to manage this particular process very effectively in a way that we are meeting the objectives. That is actually whether you are able to satisfy the customer's needs and wants ultimately. So therefore, so this is what is actually meant by supply chain management. So you may now know that the second definition is also actually the same thing in a different in a different words, in a different way. So I will not discuss that in detail, right? So therefore, when we look at the flows in a supply chain, now you can see there are 3 flows, okay? For you to manage this supply chain very effectively, properly, you need to have information between yourself, your suppliers, your customers, your intermediaries, what needs to be ordered, what needs to be delivered, when they should be delivered, and what is the agreed price. So these information should be gone, you know, forward and backward of your supply chain, from supplier to the customer, customer to the dealer, and the market information should come to you, right? So therefore, there should be information flow. So if this information flow is not there, if there are disturbances, you may not be able to manage this supply chain effectively. And also you can see as a result that you are ordering something as a result of that you are ordering something from your supplier, which is your information for the supplier. Supplier will deliver some products to you, right? They can be a raw material. So therefore, you can also see a product, or if it is a services organization, service flow, product flow, or it can be any material. So that is also flowing through supply chain from supplier to the manufacturer, from manufacturer to the market, right? So therefore, there is a product flow as well, or it can be service or material flow. And the funds, finally, for the product that you are receiving from your supplier, you have to pay. And also when you have delivered your final product to the customer, customers have to pay and buy your product. So therefore you can see there is a finance flow as well, right? So these are the three main flows that you can see in a supply chain throughout your supply chain. Right. So why I explain you what is supply chain, what is supply chain management? Because without knowing what is your supply chain, we cannot understand what is logistics. So logistic is, as I have mentioned here, it is a part of the supply chain management. It is just a sub-function of the broad domain or the broad discipline or the broader function of supply chain management. It is just one function that you see in supply chain management function. But then what you got to do in logistics, it plans, you have to plan your logistic activities, and then you have to implement what you have planned, and you have to control the entire efficient, effective forward and reverse flow, because now the logistic is actually the physical flow. Physical flow, right? Now in your supply chain, you need to receive raw material from your suppliers, and then these raw materials will go through a conversion process, and then once it is done, you have to deliver it to the final customer. So you can see that there's a physical product, service or material flow that are running throughout your supply chain. This particular flow is specifically referred as logistics, not only just the physical flow, but also the information associated with this particular flow. Because the right flow, product, service or the material will not happen when the right information is not received. Now, for example, when you did not receive the right order, right, for some reason, if the order quantity has not been mentioned correctly in their order, you will send something else to your customer, right? So those are actually some mistakes that can happen in your information flow. So therefore, as long as that you get this information flow correct, your product or the service or the material flow will also can get correct. So therefore, logistic is actually that entire flow of your physical product. Okay, it can be even a service, it can be material, it can be finished goods, it can be semi-finished goods, that can be anything. So, and also that includes the relevant information for this particular flow to be efficient. So that is basically called logistics. And the difference between, when you take the difference between supply chain and logistic is, supply chain function is the broader function, logistic function is a sub-function of that. And supply chain includes some more function than logistic function. For example, if you take supplier relationship management, and the proper connectivity, the integration of the supply chain. So these are some of the things that are included in supply chain that are not included in logistic function, right? So I will read this definition for you. So this is a part of the supply chain management, right? So it is a sub-function of supply chain management, and it plans. So logistic flow must be properly planned, how you will get, these products to you, and then how you are going to convert that, how it should be delivered. So these things properly be planned, and then you have to implement the plan that you have done, and it controls the efficient, effective forward and reverse flow. You may have heard of reverse logistics as well, because there are certain cases where we sell the products to the market. Sometimes there can be defective products, warranty claims can be there, and also scrap products, the used products, there should be a proper way of sending back to the manufacturer. So the manufacturer can reuse them, recycle them, which is called reverse logistics, right? So therefore, it is not only just the forward flow of your product, but also reverse flow, right? Backward flow should also be planned and implemented and properly controlled. And also in your logistic chain, right, in your logistics, your products will never run continuously. When you receive your raw materials from the supplier, you may have to keep them in the stores for some times in your inventory. So you have inventories, right? So therefore, when you receive your goods from the supplier, you have to send them to the warehouses or the storages that you have, and then you have to take them back when you are ready to start your manufacturing, right? And then while you are carrying out your manufacturing process also, there can be work in progress inventories time to time in the process that you are carrying out. So therefore, this particular flow is not a continuous flow. There can be some certain stops as well. So what we call them inventories. We call them inventories. So they can be with the suppliers, with you, right, and in your manufacturing process. And when you have sent your finished products to be delivered to your distributors, they also might have their inventories. So therefore, it is all not only just about the flow, but also all these stops also, which we can call storages or the inventory. So that's why here we also have to think about the flow and also the storage of goods, services and related information between the point of origin and the point of consumption in order to meet customers' requirements, right? So then it is very clear that the logistic process is actually, it is the, in logistics we only consider the physical flow of our supply chain. So if it is a services organization, that is about the services flow. If it is a manufacturing organization, that is your product, raw material, semi-finished goods, that flow. And also you have to think about the related information also that are very, very peculiar or very relevant to your physical product flow, because without information you can't handle that process very effectively, right? So this is that that definition, and I have given you some examples. So these are international logistic companies. You may have heard of UPS. UPS actually United Parcel Service, and DHL, FedEx. So these are international logistic providers. We also have some local providers such as you may have heard of maybe EFL, and then Logicare we have, and also EFL, well-known logistic service providers in Sri Lanka, right? So with that we will now go and understand, okay, so it is again logistics, but then I have actually included some more information there. So here it says, now you can say there are so many rights in this explanation, right? Now the second bullet point, logistic involves getting the right way, the right product, the right quantity, right quality, the right place, right time, right customer, right cost. So if you manage your logistic flow very clearly, if you have planned it properly, and if you have successfully executed your plan, you will be able to get the right product you want, because as I mentioned you, it involves information as well. So if you receive right information, if you manage to get the right information relevant to those orders, you will be able to make sure that you are delivering the right product in the right way, the transportation mode, right? So there are different transportation modes, as you already know. So for different orders, different transportation modes will do. So therefore, we have to select the right way, the right product. We have to make sure that it is coming, the right product is coming to you. The right quantity also very important. If you do not get the required amount that you want, you cannot successfully continue your supply chain. So therefore, right quantity is also very important, and the right quality. If you get the wrong product, the product not with the right quality standards, that's also not the right. I mean, you cannot continue your manufacturing, or you cannot continue to deliver the goods to the customer, because that is not at the right quality and the right place. Right, okay. So you may have different factories, you have some head office in your organization, so you have to be very clear to which place that you have to have your product, right, the right place. It shouldn't be delivered to the wrong factory. It should be delivered to the place where it should be delivered, which is the right place at the right time. So you are ordering particular orders from your suppliers to meet a plan. You have a target date to start your manufacturing, to deliver it to the customer. So then it should come at the right time. If you are getting delayed, you shouldn't be able to deliver it at the right time to the customer. So therefore, getting your products at the right time is also very important, and the right customer at the right cost. So it should be delivered to the right person. So that is the right customer for that product. And also the right cost. If you handle all these things right, if your process was right for you to have the right product, right quality, right quantity, right way, it definitely will meet the right cost also, because it has come in the right way, meeting all the things correctly, so the cost will also be the right cost. So for you to meet all these rights, you will only be able to do that when you can manage your logistic function very clearly, effectively, and efficiently. So this is logistics, right? So and also we know that we have three components of logistics: inbound logistics, material management, and outbound logistics. So then inbound logistics talks about all the activities that we are carrying out from the point where from suppliers to the manufacturer, right? So all the activities that we are carrying out in between the supplier and you as the manufacturer or the service provider in a particular supply chain. So all these activities are coming under inbound logistics, because whatever you are doing to make sure that you are getting your raw materials inside your organization, inside your factory, all those activities are coming under inbound logistics. And the material management is when you have received your material, now you have to manage that material properly. You have to manage that material properly to process your activities, and the end process will be to have a finished product. So that is actually, we will go back to the previous slide. So that is material management. You are managing your material, right? Because the raw materials that you have received, now you have to convert them to a finished product, which is actually all those activities, all those manufacturing activities that you are doing, everything will come under material management part. And then outbound logistic is all the activities that are included in delivering your finished product to the customer. Everything that you are doing in between the customer and yourself at that end, that is called outbound logistics. So these are the three components of logistics, right? Okay, sorry, yeah, moving backward. Okay, so this is transportation. So transportation is also a separate topic, separate title, separate component in your syllabus. Now the transportation is to move things. Transportation is to move things. Now here I have mentioned that it is all about movement of humans. Now as a result of transportation only, we have been able to move from one place to another. And also animals, you can also move animals and goods from one location to another because of transportation. So, therefore you might now think, all right, so if the transportation is to move things, goods or animals from one place to another, what can be logistics? What is the difference between logistics and transportation? So the transportation, you will be able to transport something when you have made a decision to move. So that decision is taken by the logistic function, because I told you in logistic function, logistic is all about moving things throughout your supply chain. So for you to move, you have to first make a decision. For that you need information. With that information you are making a decision. As a result, now you are moving something. You have decided to buy something from a particular supplier, a certain quantity, right? You also have agreed a price. So once you have made that decision, then the supplier will move that goods to you, should be from one of the delivery vehicles, or your supplier in overseas, can be sea freight, air freight, all right? So therefore, logistic is actually broader than transportation. That's why I have shown like here, shown in this way. So logistic is broader than transportation. Logistic never equals to transportation. Transportation just the act of moving. But before you are going to move, you have to make a decision by looking at all the information that you have received, that you have to make the right decision, and as a result, you will be able to move your goods. Especially we are talking about the business logistics, we are talking about business operations. So therefore, you would definitely will move goods. There are passenger transportation, those are also part of logistics. But here our concern is just to look at the business activities, the business logistic part. Okay. Right. So then you may now be very clear about the difference between transport and logistics. So transport is the very low law level, or it is actually the most operational level activity, transport, and then the logistics. So difference between transport and logistics is you have information in between. We have information in between. And then supply chain includes so many other functions, not only logistics. Logistics is part of supply chain, and therefore you can see transport is also a part of supply chain. So supply chain is the broader chain, the broader domain, or the broadest spectrum of all the activities. So this includes so many other activities, so those things we will discuss later. And on the top of everything, you can see value chain also, because value chain, why you are carrying out all these activities? To make sure that you are offering a product to the customer. So that process starts from the supplier, ending with the customer. Throughout this process, what we should do? We should try to add value. All right, we should try to add value to the customer. What are the expectations of the customers? What they need from us? With what features? What characteristics? Right? At what price? With what quality? So all these things are actually customer expectations. So we have to make sure that we are creating a value. We are creating what they want throughout all our activities. So that's why you can see value chain at the top of this particular circle, right? And also, once you are done with your product, you can you can send it to the supermarkets if it is a FMCG product, fast moving consumer good, right? And then the customer will come and choose the product, and the consumer finally consumes the product. So that is basically, so we have to understand all these terms when we are learning about logistics, transport, warehousing. We need to understand all this, the broader scenario of this particular subject, otherwise we won't be able to understand the link between all these functions, right? So then we will now talk about logistic activities. So we already know logistic is a sub-function of supply chain management, and you can see I have highlighted transportation, warehousing and storage in red. The reason is this is what you have in your syllabus: transportation, warehousing and storage. And now you can see transportation, warehousing are some activities that are coming under the logistic function, right? Therefore, logistic function is broader than transportation and warehousing and storage. There are some other activities also, right? Other than transportation, warehousing and storage, you can also see some other activities that are coming under the logistic function. Industrial packaging, so I'm not going to explain them in very detail, because in your syllabus you don't have to worry about these things, but there are many more activities like that under the logistic function. Industrial packaging, materials handling, inventory control is also a function that is coming under logistic function. Order fulfillment, demand forecast we have to do. We have to forecast the demand, and then you have to work accordingly. You should not supposed to manufacture what you can and then push it to the market. Instead, you have to study the market, and then you have to start manufacturing what the market wants. So therefore, you have to do a demand forecasting. Production planning, scheduling, that is also another activity that comes under logistic. Some more logistic activities are there. Procurement or sourcing. Procurement is to bring what you want inside your factory, inside your organization. That is procurement. Sourcing is to find out the place of your raw materials or where your suppliers are. And the customer service is also part of logistic function. You have to serve your customer. You have to deliver when they want, what they want, at the place they want to buy, which includes customer service. And the facility location is where your factories are, where your warehouses are. If those are not located at the right place, your supply chain would not work properly. And the return goods handling, the reverse logistics part, as I already mentioned to you. And the parts and service support, whenever they want to get their products repaired and everything, there should be parts and available in the market for them to get repaired their product. and again salvage and scrap disposal. Once they have finished using that product, how they can dispose it in a proper way that will not harm to the environment. So those are coming under logistic activities, but in your syllabus only transportation, warehousing should be covered. Okay, so then this is transportation that I already explained to you, right? So there you also can see when you are transporting your goods, it should be safe, efficient, reliable and sustainable movement of persons and goods, right? So when you are transporting your goods, they shouldn't be damaged. So that's why you have to select the right transportation mode. You have to pack them properly. That's why packaging was also an activity that came under logistics as we saw previously. So safe and it should be efficient flow, right? So you have to very efficiently transport your goods from one location to another, because without transportation we can't do business, because we don't have everything what we want around us, right? So therefore definitely transportation must be there. It should be efficient, however, and also reliable. We should be able to rely on our transportation modes to receive the right good at the right time to the right place, right? And also sustainable movement of persons and goods. So we should transport our goods in a sustainable manner, in a greener manner, in a way that we are not harming our environment. So sustainable aspect of transportation is that. And then these are the basic transport modes we have, right? So there are actually more than, I think you may only know about air transport mode, and this is road is actually motor transport. So air, road, water, rail and pipeline, and when you combine two of them, that is called multimodal, right? So we have air, road, water, rail, pipeline and multimodal also, because in real practice you will not be able to transport any good only by using one particular transport mode. If it is air freight, if it is coming by air, right? So you have to go to the airport and pick it up and use maybe a road transport to bring it to the right location into your factory, right? Even if you use water, right, sea freight, you have to do the same thing. So therefore in real practice you can always see it is a combination of two transport modes. So that part is actually addressed under multimodal transport modes, right? So in international trade, basically mostly we use air and water, or it can be air freight or sea freight. So these are the popular transport modes in international trade. Okay. So these are the different modes of multimodal transportation. We have, now you can see pipeline. Now this pipeline transportation is actually, there are certain things that we can transport in a pipeline. For example, water. In Sri Lanka actually you can only see water, but in other countries gas, petrol, or these fuel, all these things are actually transported via pipeline. So therefore pipeline is also another transport mode. So when it comes to multimodal, as I already told you that it is a combination of two transport modes, you cannot never combine air, rail or water with pipeline. So if you start to transport anything through a pipeline, it has to be started from a pipeline and has to be also ended from a pipeline. So therefore pipeline cannot be combined with other transportation modes, but you can see it is always, now this truck is actually motor transport. So motor transport or road transport. So this is always combined with another, right? You cannot see that rail and water that they are combined, and air and water, no, but you can see truck and rail, truck and air, truck and water. So when you combine sea freight and motor transport, which is water and truck, that can be called fishy back. So that is actually the name for that particular combination is called fishy back. And then rail and truck, when you have, because you know that we have railway stations. Now even when you go somewhere, you have to get off at a railway station, and if I'm very sure that you are not living nearby a railway station, you have to get another transport mode, maybe bus or your own vehicle or bicycle, whatever it is, you have to drive them to your home, right? So therefore, that is actually called rail and truck. Rail and motor transport together, that is called piggyback, because that is a combination of these two. And birdieback is actually air and truck, as I told you before also. You will have to, now when something is, or when if you have landed in Bandar Naik International Airport, you definitely have to come out and take your own vehicle, or you should be transported to your place. Similarly, the goods also, right? So therefore, in practice, you can see we always use these are in combination. So therefore, we have to study about multimodal transportation modes as well. Okay. And when you are selecting a mode of transportation, now here the career selection determinants, so these are the factors that are affecting on how you are going to select a transport mode. Carrier is that, a carrier is a transport mode. How you are going to select that? So you basically have to look at these two, transportation cost and the service performance. It shouldn't always be a decision based on the transportation cost, but also you have to look at from their service performance angle as well, right? If you are, when you are selecting a service provider for your service, now for example, we have in practice we have logistics service providers. They are now the companies that I mentioned you before. They are logistics service providers, so you can outsource this organization. If you do not have warehousing facilities with you, if you haven't got enough trucks, lorries for you to transport your own goods, you definitely can outsource those people. You can get their service for a fee. So let's say that you are going to select one of those logistic providers. So you don't always have to look at the cost of those organization, the price that they are charging from you. You always have to look at the other angle, which is their service performance. Are they providing a better service for us? So that also can be looked at. So when it comes to transportation cost, therefore, are there any minimum weights? I mean, you cannot transport anything that you want, right? There can be weight limits that you can transport with them. And loading, unloading facilities, right? What are the facilities that they are providing to load goods onto those vehicles and unload them? And packaging, right? Packaging, what packaging that we have to use when you are dealing with them? And are there any chances to get your products damaged in transit while they are being transported? Okay. And other services that they are providing, any other special service that they are providing. So you can look at those angles when it comes to the cost element of your transportation, right? So you can have a have a view of all these things, and you can roughly have an idea about the transportation cost before you are going to select a transportation provider or any mode of transportation. And the service performance, that is transit time. Right? Are there any time gaps in between one place to another, whether you have to keep your goods at a certain place before it is going to be boarded to another mode of transportation, and the reliability, whether you can trust them to deliver it on time as you have agreed. What is the capacity they have? Do they have the right capacity to serve you? And the accessibility, whether you can easily approach them, right? Whether you can easily get their service, and the security for your goods, you know, how reliable are they, therefore are they you know, whether you can trust them. So those are coming under the service performance category. So therefore you have to look at all these, not only the cost but also the service performance, whether they are providing a better service to you when you are selecting a transportation mode, or if you are basically when you are selecting a third party provider for your logistics service, because nowadays most of the companies are using these third party 3PL. I think you may have heard this word, third party logistic companies. There are many providers even in Sri Lanka. You can work with one of them. So when you are selecting that kind of organization for you to be your logistic partner, you have to look at these factors always, transportation cost and the service performance. Right. So we will move to the next slide. Okay. So now you can see that transportation is a function that you can see in the broader function of logistics, and the transportation plays a bigger role in logistics, because without transportation, no logistics. Without logistics, no supply chain, right? So then the operation of transportation determines the efficiency of moving products, that we already know. How effectively, efficiently that you have planned your transportation activity will ensure the efficiency of the process of moving goods. Whether the right product had been delivered to the right place at the right time, at the right quantity, everything will be made sure when you have planned your transportation activity properly. For that you need to have logistic function. Once you have planned, when you have made the decisions, you have to start physically moving them from right place to the right place that it should be delivered to. And the progress in techniques and management principles improves the moving load, delivery speed, service quality, operation cost, the usage of facilities and energy saving. Nowadays we are using so many advanced techniques in transportation. You may have heard about this drones transportation, right? So there are so many advances in transportation field. So with all these things, now we have been able to move a bigger lot in our transportation modes, and the speed is very high. Now, for example, when you take air freight, that is very much speedier. And the service quality, right? So goods are not being damaged and they are delivering them on time, service quality, and the operation cost has been minimized because of the technology advancements, the usage of facilities, and also energy saving because of these technological advancements that you can see. We will be using minimum of energy when we are transporting. Now, for example, when you take drones, actually, I mean, we are not using fuel now. In other normal transportation modes, we have to use fuel, right? So that is actually energy saving and also very quick. So it is sustainable, it is environment friendly, so those benefits are there. Transportation takes a crucial part in the logistic operation that we already identified. Transportation or logistic decisions can be made, but transportation must be there to physically move these products from one place to the other place that you want them. So therefore, I can say when you take entire economy or even your organization, transportation is very much important for us to expand the functions in our economies, improve the production, services, generation, everything in an economy and also in our organization. So transportation therefore plays a very key role in a logistical system. Okay. And warehousing, the final part of your syllabus, warehousing. So when you say warehousing, we all think, okay, it is just a place to store goods. Yes, you are storing goods in a warehouse, but actually it is not just simply a place to store your goods, but also there are many other things that we are doing in warehouses. So you can see that you have to sort your goods. Sorting, you have to recognize what kind of different categories products that you have, and you have to pile them separately. You have to organize them. Sorting and sequencing, you have to arrange them in a particular order, and then when you receive orders from your customers, you have to go and pick the right products, order selection. And transportation consolidation is actually you will not actually deliver one order by one order. You will wait few orders to come, and in one truck you can deliver all these orders together to save your transportation cost. Otherwise, if you transport as you receive your orders, then you are not using your transportation facility to the maximum extent, maximum level. So you are wasting your resources. So transportation consolidation is that, and product modification, assembly, these are also being carried out in a warehouse. It's not just a place to store your goods, but also product modification, assembling, these things are also now being carried out in warehouses. That part of activities are called value-added services provided by a warehouse. That's why now a warehousing function has become a strategic function. It is not just a place to store your goods, but also some small modification to your product also can be requested from those warehouse providers. So that's why I told you there are companies in every country. That is the trend now. So you have this 3PL, third party logistic providing companies. You can get their service. They have huge warehouse. So in those warehouses they carry out these value added services as well. If you are requesting them to modify your product a little bit, and then if you want to label your product, they will do them while they are being stored in their warehouses before they are going to be dispatched to the customer. Right. So therefore, that's why I have mentioned here, you can choose between obtaining service from a specialist or operating its own facility. So you can choose to get the service of those 3PL providers, or you can have your own facility. But I can see most of the organizations are actually using their specialist, because they are the specialists in logistics industry, those companies. They are the people who know better to how to minimize the cost and everything. So therefore, most of the organizations are actually using these 3PL service providers. And reasons for warehousing, why we have to have a warehouse. Now I told you in a logistic function, in logistics, they are not continuously moving, right? There can be places where we have to have inventories. So we get raw materials from the suppliers, and straight away we are not going to start our manufacturing process. And even in our manufacturing process, there can be inventories. Also, once you have finished your product, that also must go to inventories, and from that they can be dispatched to the customers. So therefore, you need to have warehouses throughout your supply chain to store these goods till you are ready to move them, because it is not a continuous flow. At different places of your supply chain, that flow is going to be disturbed, and then it will be resumed. So for that, we need to have places for you to store your goods. So that is the main reason for warehousing, right? So then you will be able to treat your customers properly. So that is the customer's policy, to serve a better service for the customer. We should be able to provide what they want at the right time, right place, right, to maintain a source of supply without interruptions, right? If you do not have these warehouses, and then when you receive an order from the customers, you then again have to contact your supplier, get your raw material. So it takes time. It gets delayed. But when you have raw materials with you in your inventories, the moment that you receive your orders, you can start manufacturing. So it will be quicker to the market, rather than that you are starting your process from the beginning again, to order raw material, to wait till till you receive them. But when you have inventories with you, that time delay can be cut, right? So you can straight away start with the inventories that you have. To achieve transportation economies, rather you are ordering inventories little by little, right? You can buy a bulk, a huge inventory, and keep that in your warehouse. So therefore, you are meeting economies of scale. To support changing market condition and sudden changes in demand. So when there are sudden changes in demand, now this pandemic period, you saw that it was really challenging. The people who had inventories, actually they were able to win the market. So therefore, to respond these sudden changes in the market, all these conditions, we can also handle that situation when you have inventories with you. For you to have inventories, you need to have warehousing facility. And then to support JIT programs. Now JIT program is actually just in time. For just in time also, we have to have a proper warehousing. Now just in time is that you are not going to keep huge inventories with you. You are going to order your raw materials just before you are going to manufacture. That is the idea of JIT, just in time. So for that also, warehousing would be really supporting that policy also, because you need to have warehousing. Even now in JIT, actually you are not going to order big inventories. It will be little by little, time to time. But for that also, you have to have warehousing to provide customers with the right mix of products at all times and all locations. As I already mentioned you at the very first point, we need to, why we are there? We are there to provide what customers want. So then we should be able to provide the right mix of products, the right product that they want at the time that they want, and the location that they are going to buy that. So for that, As I told you, in our supply chain, there can be different places where this continuous flow will not happen. So for that, in order to make sure that you are providing the right service to the customer, we may have to have these things at different places. So for that, we need warehousing to ensure least logistic cost for a desired level of customer service. Right? So then throughout your supply chain, you can go for the least cost of your logistic. When you have warehouses, you can minimize the cost. Otherwise, every time that you are getting an order, you have to, carry out the same process. Throughout your supply chain, you have to carry out the same process. But now, since you have inventories in your warehouses, and that is raw material, and also when it comes to finished goods, you have finished goods inventories also. So therefore, you will be very quicker to the market. Otherwise, if you do not have these finished goods inventories, when you receive an order from the market, now you have to again order your raw materials, start manufacturing. So that's a long process. So now you have already carried out that process, and the finished products are with us. Right? So when you receive the order from the customer, now you can quickly deliver the product that they want. So for that, you need to have inventories. So inventories are stored in warehouses. So therefore, you can see it is very important for you to have this warehousing facility. When you take a total supply chain, you can see suppliers might have their warehouses, and the manufacturers have their small storages, and also you can see distributors, dealers, that they have their own warehouses. So therefore, throughout the supply chain, we can see these warehouses at different locations. Right. So warehouse activities, what you are doing in a warehouse, the basic functions in a warehouse. So you know that you receive goods to your warehouse. Now think about the third party logistic provider, the warehouse that they are operating. So this warehouse is for everyone, any client, any customer of that company. Right? So many companies must be using the same logistic provider. So in that warehouse, different manufacturers' products are stored. Okay, so that warehouse therefore receiving different products of different manufacturers. So you receive goods, and therefore you have to identify the goods. Even the same manufacturer is doing many products. It's not just a single product, right? So therefore, from the same manufacturer, from the same customer, you are receiving many products. So you have to sort them, identify these goods. Dispatch goods to storage. Then once you receive them, you have to take them to the right location in your warehouse that you have dedicated a place for different products, right? So you have to take these goods to the right storage place, and then you have to hold those goods in those places till you receive an order for those goods. When you receive an order for those goods, you have to go and pick those products, and then you have to ship that. Okay, you have to ship it. Dispatch the shipment is the order. So you have to dispatch it, and for that you can also have an information system, operate information system. So you have an information system that is specifically for these warehousing activities. So thereby you can effectively carry out your warehousing activities. And finally, the benefits of warehousing. So you can consolidate. Consolidate is that you can buy your raw materials at different times from different suppliers, and you can buy them and store in your warehouse. So that is consolidation. And then when you receive a bulk order as a result of consolidation, because of that you had a warehouse, so you have bought small quantities from different suppliers, and you have stored that. So that is consolidation, right? And the break bulk is the opposite of that, right? Sometimes you are buying bulk from your suppliers, and then you may have to deliver it to, you may have to break it into smaller components because you have received small orders for them, right? So you buy in bulk and you break them into smaller components depending on the small orders that you have received. So consolidation and break bulk, they are for opposite sides of the same thing. And the value-added services, as I already told you, these warehouse providers are providing the services like they will label your products for you, they will relabel, rebrand, right? Because you sometimes have seen in supermarkets certain items that have been imported from foreign countries. You can see that they have been relabeled. The Sri Lankan price has been place on the original label. So those things are actually carried out in warehouses. They are doing that for us because we are paying for them for that service, warehouse providers. And also you can see that some products being bundled together. When you buy something, you will get that product free, right? So those services are offered for their clients. And the stockpiling is the basic function that they do. They stockpiling is, they are storing our goods in their storages, in their warehouses for us. But when we do not have, if you are not having your own facility, warehousing facility, what you can do is you can hire those service providers. So it is anyway a choice up to you. If you have enough facilities, if you have enough space and enough space to build up a warehouse, you can have your own one, but otherwise you can always have the service of these third-party logistic providers, right? All right, so thank you very much. I hope that you have that you got a clear understanding about what is supply chain, logistics, transportation, warehousing, because without knowing what is supply chain, you can't really get a good meaning of what is logistics, transportation, and warehousing. And the logistic is a sub-function of supply chain, and transportation, warehousing are activities that are coming under logistic. Thank you very much.